People close to Ynw Melly have been stating that he has a very strong defense in his court case. After the state of Florida filed in 66 pages of new evidence against Melly, the judge announced that the prosecutors are no longer interested in putting Ynw Melly behind bars for life. Instead, they're looking to have the penalty, as the parents of Ynw Juvie and Sack Chaser want justice for what happened to their boys. Meanwhile, Ynw Melly's legal team is working around the clock, setting up a very impressive defense strategy so Melly can be released from jail. In the new pages of evidence, they're claiming that after running ballistics reports, all signs of who did the act towards Ynw Juvie and Sack Chaser were sitting in Ynw Melly's seat inside of the car. So here's the photo of where everyone was sitting the night it all went down. Ynw Bortland, being the driver of the vehicle, had Ynw Melly sitting directly behind him, with Ynw Juvie and Ynw Sack Chaser both sitting on the opposite side of the vehicle. Using what is called the stick method, law enforcement used plastic sticks to match the trajectory of the firearm that was used from Ynw Melly's seat. So the trajectory from the sticks with Ynw Melly's seat ended up sharing a perfect match to where Ynw Juvie and Ynw Sack Chaser were affected once brought to the hospital. Also, in the new evidence reports, it claims that once the act was done inside of the vehicle, law enforcement were able to use Ynw Melly's cell phone as a GPS tracking device. Law enforcement teamed up with T-Mobile, and they were able to see Ynw Melly walking around in a circle motion at the time that law enforcement believes the act was done. The theory is, after the act was done inside of the vehicle, Ynw Melly stepped out of the car and roughed up the car from the outside using his own firearm. This so then it would make it appear as if it went through a drive-by. Now this theory seems true, as the shells from the firearm that they found outside of the vehicle on the ground ends up matching the shells that were found under the floor mats inside of the car. Inside of the vehicle, under the floor mats, right beside Ynw Melly's seat, was a couple shell casings from a firearm, which does not look good in Ynw Melly's defense. 100K Management, otherwise known as Ynw Melly's manager, stated in a recent interview with DJ Academics that all of this evidence against Ynw Melly only looks bad because Melly's lawyers and legal team have yet to share any of their defense online. Allegedly, Ynw Melly has a very strong defense against this evidence here. So as shown in the rest of the evidence files, law enforcement states, and I quote, "These particular cell phones, which were both iPhone 10s, were on the T-Mobile network." And so T-Mobile has a very interesting feature where it will tell you the environment the cell phone is in. So from these cell phone records, I can tell you the exact moment demons got out of the car and staged the drive-by location. This is why people say, if you're gonna do a crime, leave the cell phone at home. Ynw Melly's cell phone that was sitting in his pocket is a massive deal in this case, as law enforcement are using it as a GPS tracking device. On Ynw Melly's personal cell phone, law enforcement found case-breaking evidence. As in the court files it states, then also, we have a video of Mr. Demons admitting to doing an act towards 2 individuals in the head. This video was on Mr. Demon's cell phone, which was brought to my office by Jameson Francis, and that is how we had that, and that is all of the evidence that Your Honor has. Jameson Francis, otherwise known as 100K Management that I mentioned earlier, was holding on to Ynw Melly's cell phone while he has been sitting in jail. Law enforcement then put a warrant out for it, meaning he had to turn it in or he would also be arrested for holding evidence. Now all of this evidence is crucial against Ynw Melly when you hear the timeline of what happened the day Sack Chaser and Juvie sadly passed. So it started on October 26, 2018. At roughly 3:30 a.m., Ynw Melly, Juvie, Sack Chaser, and Bortland were all at a recording studio in Florida getting work done until their session was over. Video surveillance at the recording studio caught all 4 of the Ynw boys hopping inside of their Jeep and driving home, with the driver of the vehicle being Cortland Henry, otherwise known as Ynw Bortland, had Ynw Melly sitting directly behind him. While on the way home, Bortland was driving on a side street, nobody in sight, with no traffic cameras either. While law enforcement are still wondering what happened inside of the car, the theory is the Jeep was pulled over to the side of the road, and a distraction was then made inside of the vehicle to catch Juvie and Sack Chaser off guard, while Ynw Melly did the act towards them in the car. Law enforcement believes it was Ynw Melly who did it, as Ynw Melly sent his girlfriend at the time a text message on Snapchat saying, "I kept Bortlen with me because at the end of the day, he did one of the realest stuff in my life." Law enforcement believes this is Ynw Melly's way of thanking Bortlen for remaining loyal and not snitching on him while he was arrested. And this is the same girlfriend who prosecutors are right now trying to get to testify against Ynw Melly in court, and Ynw Melly's lawyers are currently scrambling, trying to do anything humanly possible to make sure she does not speak at his trial. After the act was done inside of the Jeep, law enforcement then used Ynw Melly's cell phone as a GPS tracking device to track the Jeep being driven into a side parking lot where nobody was in sight and nobody could hear a firearm. This is when Ynw Melly was seen on GPS tracking device jumping out of the vehicle, walking around his Jeep in a 360-degree motion, making it appear as if a drive-by happened to his car. Now this would end up being Ynw Bortlen's excuse for this entire thing happening when he finally brought Sack Chaser and Juvie to the hospital. Now this could also explain as to why it took Bortlen 40 minutes to get Juvie and Sack Chaser medical attention. And while Ynw Bortlen was driving the two that needed medical attention immediately to the hospital, for some reason, Ynw Melly ended up sprinting home on foot. Now it wasn't until February 13th where Ynw Melly was then brought into jail for the act that led to Juvie and Sack Chaser's passing. Ynw Bortlen was also arrested for 2 counts of accessory and helping Ynw Melly cover it up. So Ynw Melly's defense is going to be shown to the courtroom on May 23rd. Ynw Melly's trial was supposed to begin 2 weeks ago, but with the new 66 pages of evidence going against the rapper, we then saw his trial delayed and pushed to May 23rd, 2022. In other words, this means that if his defense is good enough and Ynw Melly is found innocent, he will be released from jail in the month of May in the year 2022. There's so many moving parts in Ynw Melly's case that is important to remember. Right now, Ynw Melly has 66 pages of hard DNA evidence going against him, and as Ynw Melly's manager, 100K Management, said, he has a very strong defense right now, but it obviously won't be shown to the public. What many people want to know is how are you going to beat DNA evidence in the court of law? And let's not also forget either the video on Ynw Melly's cell phone of him literally admitting to doing it towards Juvie and Sack Chaser. I also do find it a little strange as to how they allowed Ynw Bortlen to be released on bail until the trial begins, seeing as this is a case with 2 individuals passing. If the prosecutors say they have good enough evidence like they say they do, there is no reason as to why Ynw Bortlen should be released right now, unless he snitched, as like some people are saying. That's the only thing making me a little bit worried about Ynw Melly's situation right now. If you're worried in the slightest bit, let me know down below in the comments on why. Anyways, it has been District Trending and I'm ending the video here. I'm out. Peace.